Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hear the Winnipeg North talking about the security clearance, which would imply that only one person should know the names, Mr. Speaker. We as Conservatives believe every Canadian should know the names, just like every Liberal should be entitled to speak out. You know, just last week, Mr. Speaker, well, the member from Winnipeg North sure is excited. He must not like what we have to say, because just yesterday, actually, sorry, it was just last week, I believe it is, when the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition left, we gave him rousing applause because he did a great job. And the Prime Minister from his seat made a seal motion, as though implying we are all seals, and he talks about Conservatives being muzzled. And then we find out the member from Hamilton East, Stony Creek, is told there will be consequences if he doesn't fall in line. What did we hear all day yesterday during question period, Mr. Speaker? Why are those Conservatives being muzzled? I'll tell you this, Mr. Speaker. We actually take pride in not being muzzled on this side of the House. We take pride in being able to ask questions. The member for Winnipeg North asks just about every single question when there are people behind him that are more than capable on this side of the House. We believe that people should be unmuzzled. We are free to speak in our caucus. We are free to speak our mind, and that is not something that the Liberals can claim. So when they say, Mr. Speaker, that we are muzzled, and then that very day, the member from Hamilton East, Stony Creek, says, I can't vote as I wish because I can't serve my constituents as I wish. And why? Because the Prime Minister is gonna muzzle me. I believe the term was shackles. Now, the Liberals don't like shackles. They hate mandatory minimums. They've allowed people to serve sentences of house arrest for violence, gun crimes like extortion with a firearm, drive-by shootings. You can serve those all now on house arrest because of this Liberal government. So we know they don't like shackles. But the Liberal caucus is shackled in so many ways, Mr. Speaker. The shackles, it's just encumbrances everywhere on the government benches. You just can't list how many encumbrances there are over there, Mr. Speaker. And who gets to speak? Just last week, I spoke about the member for Winnipeg North. He's asked just about every single question in this debate. Yep. In fact, I think I've seen one, maybe two people. There have probably been 1,000 questions asked in this debate. For the Liberal side, I've seen that member ask 95, probably 99% of them. This is the government. They have, what, 158 MPs? And yet, one member. It used to be two members. It used to be the member for Winnipeg North and Kingston and the Islands. I guess the member for Kingston and the Islands has lost his mojo after that whole defamation thing. But now it's the member for Winnipeg North only being allowed to speak. And we're the ones who are being muzzled, Mr. Speaker. You can't write this stuff. Seriously. This Liberal caucus is just so muzzled, and I'm looking over, and there's so much despondency. You see them when they're in question period, and they have to give their rousing applause. It's like, it's the applause, you could just see the thought bubble above their heads. Please put me in cabinet, please put me in cabinet, please put me in cabinet. That's what's going through their heads, Mr. Speaker. And only a select few, and then we're gonna go back to seeing what we saw 2 weeks ago, which was this. The crossing of arms. The 24 who will remain nameless, but they're united. Don't worry, Mr. Speaker. They are absolutely united, and they're absolutely muzzled while they're united, Mr. Speaker. And you know why they can't tell us they're not united? Because they're muzzled. They are shackled. And finally, somebody like the member from Hamilton East Stony Creek gets to tell us about the shackles. So here we are, talking about a privileged debate, being led by one person from the Liberals, Mr. Speaker. And we're talking about massive fraud. Massive fraud. And the Liberals, particularly the member from Winnipeg North, loves to tell us about the Conservatives did this, and as I said yesterday, it's like the ghost of Stephen Harper is hiding under somebody's bed. right? They don't want to focus on the last 9 years of complete and utter failure. The member keeps on doing his wink, wink, nudge, nudge conspiracy theories, as in what's in the past about the security clearance. Never mind what happened with the reporter in the Kootenays. We'll leave that one alone because we don't want to talk about that. I wonder if that would come up in a security clearance, Mr. Speaker. In any event, really? Did you hear, Mr. Speaker, did you hear what the member from Winnipeg North just said? Maybe it was a bad date. Did he just say this?
Did he say that?
Okay, this is...
That was just insane.
Unbelievable.
Okay, I'm not usually speechless, Mr. Speaker. I am speechless. The member for Winnipeg North said, in reference to it, this isn't, you know, we can say these things in jest. This is somebody who came forward and said they were groped by the Prime Minister, and the member for Winnipeg North just said maybe it was just a bad date.
Point of order for the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, I don't mind the member quoting me, but at the end of the day, I was referring to his leader, not the Prime Minister.
Okay, this is falling into debate again, but I just want to caution everybody when we're accusing each other of doing things. Sometimes this causes a little disorder in the House. The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Let's just do a little. You know, they do a year in review, Mr. Speaker. Let's do a little speech in review here. I say something. I call out the member for Winnipeg North for talking about his conspiracy theories of what's in the background. And then I say, why aren't we talking about things in the background of the Prime Minister, like the reporter in the Kootenays? And in response, the member from Winnipeg says, maybe it was just a bad date. And then he stands up and says, no, that's not what I meant. Canadians aren't stupid. You're not stupid, Mr. Speaker. And I think the Liberals here know, but again, there might be consequences if they speak out. In fact, that member should be standing up and apologizing. I will actually stand here for 5 seconds and let him stand up and apologize.
The Honourable, on a point of order, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, if that's the way the member interpreted it, and I believe he's being honest, then I would apologize. But that's not what it is I was referring to. I was referring to his leader.
Okay. The Honourable member, Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
I thank the member for doing the right thing, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, let's get back to the member for Hamilton East Stony Creek. I'm glad at least the Liberals are allowed to apologize when they do wrong, because we know they're not allowed to speak their minds. We just know that, Mr. Speaker. And here we have a $400 million fraud. When we're in question period, Mr. Speaker, you see the Liberals, they hang their heads in shame when people are saying this, especially in the backbenches, and the Prime Minister can show as much fight as he wants, and he'll stand there and do his thing where he points at the ground and says, we won't stand for that. Well, clearly they don't stand for much when it comes to their MPs speaking out, because we know now that if their MPs disagree on something, which frankly, I think reasonable people can disagree on this issue, on the GST holiday and the GST check. That's something on which I believe reasonable people can disagree. It's obvious that reasonable people could disagree on this. And yet, you have the member from Hamilton East Stony Creek disagreeing and being told there will be consequences. How many times have you seen Conservatives speak up? We're actually allowed to talk on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. In fact, if you look, and this actually goes for the NDP and the Bloc as well, every single one of their members is free to stand up and to speak up. We compete on this side of the House for who's going to get to ask questions. You'll often see 2 or 3 Conservatives stand up when it's time to ask questions. And what do we see on that side of the House? We see the member for Winnipeg North consistently stand up and ask questions when he has capable people behind him. Just last week, I called them out and I said, you have 3 strong women behind you, Mr. Speaker. I told that member through the Speaker, 3 strong women, why don't they get to ask a question in this government? Are they muzzled as well? Why is that? I remember when Candice Bergen was still here, and she was our interim leader, and she actually said that to the member from Winnipeg North. What? There are 4 strong, capable women behind you. Why don't they get to ask a question? Perhaps it is because of the shackles. Perhaps it is because of the muzzling. And this is after 9 years of this government. It is so tired that they expect one person to carry all of the baggage, all of the weight. Wink to all the conspiracy theorists. We as Conservatives will stand for it. Hand over the documents, release the names, let's bring it home.
Yeah.